Not too long ago, I asked Reddit, YouTube, some friends on Discord, and even my own mother to help me pick some units to use in my next playthrough of Fire Emblem Conquest. So how did it go? Well, first of all, Corrin is mandatory because they are the main character and they are force deployed in every chapter. I went with a plus defense Corrin and Oni Savage talent. Now, if you've watched any of my other content, you might think that I picked this Corrin just because of how much I love plus defense Robin, especially for Lunatic Plus in Awakening, but that's not the case. I have something very special in mind for Corrin's talent. By the way, I left 2 spaces open in the draft, and I'll decide on the last 2 characters based on the comments from this video, so leave a comment if you want to help decide the final 2 spots on the team. Next up is Velouria. I gave myself 1 pick. I picked Velouria for a special reason, and we're going to talk about that much later on. After this, I showed all of the characters to my mother. I told her that Shura and Gunther were banned, and she didn't seem to mind. She told me that she liked Nyx because of her name and the way she looked, so I guess we're using Nyx. My best friend was allowed to draft 1 character, and he picked, in his own words, best girl, that being his presumed favorite character, Ophelia Dark. Now, he does have a lot of knowledge and experience with Fire Emblem, so this was not a blind pick. My other friend from my tabletop gaming group chose Camilla, and this one was a huge bailout. This guy has very surface level knowledge of most Fire Emblem games at best, and I can't say for sure why he picked Camilla, although I can probably think of 1 or 2 reasons, but he definitely didn't know that Camilla is very strong. However, she ended up not getting drafted by Reddit or YouTube, so if he hadn't picked Camilla, this run would have been a lot harder. Thanks for that. I gave 1 more pick to a friend from Discord, one of my anime friends. I have convinced him to play the first few chapters of Fire Emblem 8, but aside from watching a few of my streams, he has even less knowledge of Fire Emblem. He picked Dwyer based on his appearance, and that was it. After that, I checked Reddit and the YouTube community post to see the rest of the team. I made a rule that if there was redundant picks between my Discord friends and the Reddit thread, that I would take the next upvoted character, but surprisingly, there was no overlap. This is good news for the fans of Ophelia, Camilla, and Dwyer, since your favorite characters ended up on the team anyway. So how did the Reddit thread go? The most upvoted post was from Deem Alara. This also happened to be the first post in the topic, which does help with visibility and getting more upvotes, but probably the main reason this stayed at the top all day long was because he wrote this nice poem. You've used Camilla too many times, you know it's true. Beruka's the only wyvern for you. Well, actually, I'll be using Camilla too. For a little while, it seemed like Ignatius would be the second pick for sure, but the Reddit thread ended up getting enough attention that the votes did change over the day, which is something that I rarely see on Reddit. Typically, when a comment is upvoted to the top, it's easier for people to see, and then as a result, it receives even more upvotes. But in this case, my post was popular enough that people ended up changing the votes over the course of the day, which was pretty cool. The second pick from Reddit was this post by DK64HD. He wanted to use Odin Dark on the team because he's funny, and was also wondering why I banned Shura and Gunther. Well, since Corrin and Velouria was 2 characters, I figured I would also allow myself to ban 2 characters. It seemed like a fair number. I used Shura during my previous playthrough of Birthright, and I didn't want to use him again, so I banned him. Gunther I doubted would be drafted anyway, but I really just didn't want to use him, so I banned him too. Anyway, with Odin drafted, this will also make it a bit easier and a bit more rewarding to use Ophelia, so I'm all for this one. And the third Reddit pick was from Beneficial Concern 3, who said that Charlotte was one of the most fun units to use. I've never used Charlotte as a focal point of my team before, so I'm definitely going to have fun planning that one out and seeing if I can make her a central piece. Next up is YouTube. I ended up giving 5 spots to the roster on YouTube. Simply put, the majority of my views and interaction come from YouTube, so I figured that you all deserve the highest number of picks. On that note, let's quickly talk about the rules. After a drafted character appears in the game, I have to start training them and using them in good faith, with the intention of fielding this 14-unit roster as my main team in the final few chapters of the game. I can't go into any map with the intention of warp skipping it in a single turn. I can't rely on a single combat carry to dominate the entire run. I need to use all 14 characters for some kind of role as much as possible in good faith. For the child units, I'll be allowed to give them any parent I want, and I'm not limited to the drafted characters. I can deploy their parents as much as I need to pass down the skills that I want to pass down. I can also do this with friendship and marriage partners, but I will be more limited in that. Well, in this game, children join with an item called the Offspring Seal, which allows them to instantly level up to match the rest of my party. That is going to help a lot with the viability of characters like Dwyer, since his father, Jacob, will be joining so late into the game. The game that I play most of the time, Awakening, does not work this way. The children join as level 10 unpromoted units in the second half of the game, where almost anything they fight will instantly delete them from existence. It makes them very difficult to use and to train. The Offspring seal is such a huge relief for me when planning this run. Alright, enough rambling, let's get back to the community post. Royce and Barry suggested that I use Best Girl Severa, and I'm very on board with this one. Being a primarily Awakening player, using this character feels very familiar and very natural to me. She's a potential mother for Velouria, although I haven't completely decided yet. Next up is Effie for funny Brave Lance damage. This one was suggested by Scuba Luigi, so thanks for the suggestion. The words fun, funny, and best girl came up pretty often in these drafts, so it's certainly amusing to see how people from Reddit, YouTube, and my friends on Discord have way more in common than you might think. At the end of the day, we're all human. On that note, Odin was the only character who got an overlapping pick. Henry Ho and several people from YouTube also thought that he'd be funny to use. Now, it was suggested that users from chat could help me name forged weapons for Odin. I wasn't originally planning on streaming this playthrough. I was only going to upload the chapters later on as videos. However, if people want to see me stream this run, let me know in the comments below and I'll consider it. It will slow down my Lunatic Plus video guides a bit, so keep that in mind, but I'm willing to do it if I think that people will enjoy it. Because Odin was already picked, I went to the next in line on the YouTube community post. MPO Roxo selected Ignatius, and I think their profile picture is Toyosato Mimi no Miko from Toho 10 Desires. If that's true, pretty cool. I love her character design and I love Toho as well. Anyway, let's get back on the subject of Ignatius. Since he ended up losing his place in the Reddit vote to Odin, this pick only seemed fitting. He ends up taking Odin's place from the YouTube community post selects. I have used Ignatius in a run before and he turned out awesome, so I'm hoping I can make him work again here. Now, as for the difficulty of the run, I went with hard, partially because I didn't yet know what my team was going to look like, and if I would be able to handle Lunatic mode. Additionally, unlike most of the people who play Fire Emblem for a living on YouTube, I would say I have a lot of experience with Birthright and Awakening, and not really that much experience with Conquest. This is more intended to be a fun community run, and making it challenging wasn't the main focus for me. So I didn't want to try to play on Lunatic and then end up not being able to complete the run. I think that would leave way more people disappointed. Now let's talk about the characters who didn't get picked. You see, I left 2 spaces open for YouTube, and those characters will be selected now by looking at the comments from this video. So if you want to pick one of the last 2 spaces, leave a comment below, or go leave some likes. Leave a like on the video while you're at it, but also just like any comment which is promoting the characters that you want to see in the run. First of all, we need to talk about Xander. He wasn't actually suggested or upvoted very much in any of the threads, but he is a pretty centralizing character. He's just not as essential to Conquest. If this was Birthright and I had to play without Ryoma, things would become much harder. But in Conquest, I'd say Camilla is closer to that role, and we did get Camilla. Now obviously, if Xander gets drafted, it will help make the run much easier, but even if he doesn't, I think I'll be okay, especially on hard mode, so just go ahead and vote for whoever you want. Azura is the next character worth mentioning, and I do think that playing without a dancer is going to be a lot more difficult. However, with the rules that I set for myself, I'm allowed to field other units while waiting for the drafted characters to show up anyway, and whenever I have free slots available. So in the worst case scenario, I'm probably still going to have a lot of access to Azura for a lot of chapters, no matter what happens. Still, it will help in the final chapters if she gets drafted. If people choose Felicia or Elise, I'll focus on that character as my main staff user. However, if not, I'm probably just going to use both of them early on, and then try to train someone else for the staff user role before it's too late. Remember, my goal here is to have fun. It's not an insane challenge that's going to make me go bald with frustration. Next, I want to talk about popular picks who didn't quite make the cut. Silas actually got a number of votes as the other YouTube select, but this ended up being after I finalized the draft, and only when I went back later to look at the thread. If you think Silas got robbed, be sure to nominate him again, and I'm sorry to Ignatius. Soleil was popular on both YouTube and Reddit, but she didn't make the cut on either site. On the Reddit thread, Benny, Keaton, and Mozu were also very popular picks. Lastly, I want to give a special mention to Peri. Her support wasn't very centralized or unified. It was split between different comments on both YouTube and Reddit. And this is something you could only see if you watch the threads in real time, but early on, this vote right here for Peri was actually one of the most upvoted comments in the Reddit thread. I was really thinking that she was going to be the 3rd pick, but unfortunately, probably because she's a controversial character and because the thread ended up taking off and getting more comments and more posts, it did end up getting pushed further down the thread later on. This is just how Reddit works, so that's what happened. Now, I'm interested to see who gets the last 2 spots, if it's any of these characters or a pick that I didn't expect. Here's one final look at the team we've drafted so far. Number 1 is Corrin, mandatory. Number 2, Velouria by me. Number 3, Nyx by mom. 4, 5, and 6 were Ophelia, Camilla, and Dwyer, all from Discord. The The 3 votes from Reddit were Beruka, Odin, and Charlotte for 7, 8, and 9. Number 10 was Severa from YouTube, 11 was Effie from YouTube, and number 12 was Ignatius, the last pick from YouTube. There is a good mix of physical and magical units, as well as Generation 1 and Generation 2 units. I think this is going to give me a lot of material to work with, and I'm very excited to plan out builds so that I can get started on this right away. The final 2 spots will be decided in the comments below, and if you want me to stream this run, be sure to let me know. But for now, enjoy the rest of your day.